Node actually downloads each library version itself.
That's right.
So I think that minimalizes the risk a little, but
It does, but except that it eventually can lead to compatibility issues as well,
yeah,
right?
platform,
On the platform. So I'm actually facing that right now. I can't use PhantomJS 2.0 because it doesn't work with Karma 2.0. Karma. Well, if I upgrade this one, that one breaks, and I wasted about 4 hours last weekend doing this. So that's the frustration point. The more you depend on, the more it comes to bite you.
Yeah.
So minimalism is still very important, I think. And I would say,
Bring in a library for like nothing, like
yeah, yeah,
like just crack it open, copy and paste it. You do.
and you know what is even worse? That feature for which we brought in the library, nobody cares about it in the first place, right? And we bought it, why? Because the developers think it's really cool to do it.
Yeah.
So that is something to really think about as well.
Good talk.
Thank you, appreciate it.
That last bit about the libraries, I don't know, the previous talk I'd gone to was, I think he was talking about supply chain, and it was just, people are downloading code, open source code with vulnerabilities that are 3 years old.
Right.
Currently, he's watching the repositories, it just ties in with what you're saying.
Right, yeah.
Driveway hero. And this one is not on yet, right? It's not. Yep. Okay. I think Venkat forgot his phone. Oh, okay. We're good. Also, no, it's absolutely off. This is how you kill it. Pa. Okay.
And we need, there's actually two we'll need to put on you for.
Oh, we need for recording and
Yeah,
for
that you've got the
amplifying?
recording one on right now.
Yeah, okay.
This will be your room.
Alright. Oh, okay, now I heard it works. Okay, I'll be, just plug it in. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it'll be nice. Yeah, I think so. I don't know how. Yeah, it will probably be best for the projector. Right? And I'm not as rockstar as Venkat anyhow. So, people don't need to actually see me. Sure. Yeah, now it's good. Yeah, no one here is any help, so. Hmm? No, not mine. Mm-hmm. Hey.
Can we change the resolution to
Yeah,
43
sure.
so you...
Yeah, I think it will jump automatically, no? Won't it?
you're sending it 16:9, so you're projecting off into the black on both sides.
Okay, I got it. Let's see what we can do about it.
1024 by 768
Yeah.
is what it would be.
Oh, last time it jumped automatically, but yeah. Here you go. Thank you. And let's see what can we do about this resolution thing.
If you hold the option...
Yeah, I know. I just need to go to scale. This one, right? Which one do we need?
1024 768?
Yep. Any better now?
No, you're changing it on the built-in display?
Yeah, that's a mirror. That's a mirror.
Still 16:9 for some reason.
Yep, mirror, and that's the one. Should be good. Let me check the slides.
I guess he didn't accept it because it didn't...
Hey, alright. Okay, so. You know what? Let's unmirror it first and then change only the second one.
Sure.
That will be this one. And what do you see there?
On the display?
Is it good? One of those?
1280, 1024, you can do that, that's 43.
Alright, a second.
That's it, you're right.
That's good? Or you prefer to choose one?
800 by 600 is going to be really small on the screen.
Yeah, no, I just don't see, so you tell me what to select.
768 right there. Do it now. Right there. It's not accepting it.
No, that's what it said. Right.
I know what you're saying, but
Yeah.
1024 768 is 43, and that's a 16:9 image you're putting out.
It's still 69?
Okay, maybe it's stretching. So that's accepted?
Oh, you mean the sides?
Yeah.
Nah. What about default? Was it good when I did default?
You go for default. It looks fine. It looks fine on default.
Yeah, so let's do default. I don't care much. It's good? Awesome. That was easy. Okay.
And you're not going to use this at all. I'm going to
No, I'm not going to use this at all.
if you need to use it for some reason, they call it podium. He's standing on the podium.
Okay. Right. Up, 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 up. Sounds good? Alright, that's a big crowd. Yeah, should I blame like last topic of the day? Or I'm not sure. Actually, wish everybody were here for when cat would stay, but yeah, that's not happening. None of this life, right? You need to be Venkat. Okay. Oh, it is? It starts in... Yeah, which is now. Yeah. So, guys, you should come forward. Come on, that's ridiculous. You will, if you sit over here, I will think that it's just like the shorter room. So, yeah, you will cover the empty chairs over there. So it will be nice. Okay, now that's a shame because it is a very interesting talk. So, but it's their loss, right? Okay, so you know what's that? That's actually Atlanta during 2008 storm. It was kind of a local hell, I guess. Okay, my name is Baruch. I'm a developer advocate with JFrog. You're more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and spark up some conversation over there. And generally, over the internet, it's all JBaruch. I'm a developer advocate with JFrog, which means I do two things. I hang out with our technical guys, being technical guy myself a little bit, hopefully, still. And then I come to conferences like this one to talk about, and that's a tough job, right? Not easy. That's JFrog, that's our Israeli office where all the development happens and where I spent, I think, about 4 years. That's our Santa Clara headquarters when I'm working now. And we have our new and tiny and shiny France office in south of France. So hopefully I will get there someday as well. We have thing with frogs, generally, because of the name, because of everything. We do cool t-shirts with frogs, like that. We still have some t-shirts in our booth downstairs, which are pretty cool as well. If you still didn't get your Yoda frog with lightsaber and everything, you should come. That's a cool t-shirt. We have 3 products, and I'm not going to talk about our products today at all. Well, maybe a little bit, but not a product pitch, absolutely. Artifactory is artifact repository, universal artifact repository. Bintray is a distribution platform, and Mission Control is controlling both of them. Not the topic of our talk today. Instead, we will do memes, like a lot of memes. That's the idea. 181 slides, 40 memes. That's what we are going to do. And yeah, it won't be that hard because we have an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to talk about packaging systems, and we know packaging systems because this is what we do. And artifact repository and a distribution platform should connect to any possible package system in the world. I cannot say we cover them all. There is a packaging system for COBOL, for example. I don't know if you knew. I didn't. Now I know. I hope. Unfortunately, I know. Yeah, but we support a big deal of them. And to support them, we need to really understand how they work. We need to know the protocol, we need to know how they're implemented, and unfortunately in most of the cases we need to know how to tweak them because they don't support proper artifact management out of the box. But we're going to talk about that. Well, the idea about packaging systems is, or modules, for this regard it doesn't really matter, is, so modules are for API development, where packages are installable runtimes. So modules will be a Java jar file that you use in Maven, while package will be something that you install in your operation system. For the sake of this talk, we really don't, I will use them interchangeably just because I forget how the session was called, but it really doesn't matter. Modules, packages, it's all the same. There are a lot of them on a different level. There are packages on the operating system level, and there are a lot. Some of them, the most popular are dpkg, RPM, Homebrew, App Store for Mac, Google Play, Steam, right? Docker, Vagrant, the new Windows Package Manager. there is some, etc., etc. There are development time packaging modules, stuff like Maven, of course, Gradle, SBT, PyPy, NuGet, RubyGems, CocoaPods, Composer for PHP, the one for COBOL, and what's not. And there are frameworks that support modules or packages, stuff like Ruby on Rails, Rails, jQuery, Node.js, Spring Spring Boot, Chef, Puppet, Eclipse, and a bunch of others, right? So they are all modules on different levels. Application, your own thing. If you support any plugins, then you have modular system with modules that you need to manage, right? So those are all the different levels. So the question is, okay, there are a lot of modules, so what? And the talk today is going to be like a dragon stories, like a horror stories about modules. A lot of them. I think I have 8 if I remember correctly. Let's get to it. Story number 1 is a story of indexes kept in the wrong place. And it goes like this. Once upon a time, the servers were very, very weak, right? That was a long time ago. And when someone wants to find a module, and the modular system is very popular, it will create an unbearable load on the server. So they won't be able to serve all those searches in real time. Well, that's not the case anymore. Our computers are fast. And you probably know a system or two that handle quite a bit of load, of search load, in real time. This one, for example. To search Google, to search the internet, you don't need to download an index with all the possible websites to search locally. Google does it on the server side. And it looks like the right thing to do, but still, even today, we have a lot of package managers that use indownloadable indexes. One of the examples will be Maven Indexer. So when you want to search Maven for something from your IDE, from Eclipse, or from IntelliJ, or even from NetBeans. There is always a guy that uses NetBeans, but that's not a big crowd, so I'm not sure he went to this session. Is the guy here? The one that uses NetBeans? No, he is probably some other session. Well, okay, so IntelliJ and Eclipse, and you want to search, you want the autocomplete to work for your POM XML. How it will work? It will download the index of all the possible Maven packages in the world, and then will support your auto-completion, which is quite ridiculous, thinking that instead of that it could be just use the REST API for the query. And that's why, so we have this nice company, Sonatype, they have great booth downstairs. After the talks, you can go there and thank them for their wonderful contribution to the repository search, which is the Maven Indexer, right? So we have to download huge files before searching, and they are updated. Well, when I mean rarely, it's like what, once a day? You can think, that's okay, it's not that rare, but think about milliseconds, like this is the world we live in, so once a day, it's like rarely. And it requires a special client. When you want to search the index, you actually need IntelliJ or Eclipse to search the index, right? It's not that you can open this file and do like what? So that's not the best contribution out there. Well, okay, anyhow. So those guys, they have good excuse. Debians and RPMs were actually created when the computers were old and weak. But for all the rest, and here's another horrible example, CocoaPods. CocoaPods is the packaging manager of Swift and Objective-C for the most advanced phone operating system and most advanced desktop operating system that we all love and adore, right? So that should be like a good thing. Boom, download the index before you can use it. 2016, go figure. Most of them, though, don't need to download an index because they do have an API, which is a good thing to do, which is exactly how it needs to work, right? So okay, so those lessons, I don't know if they are really for you. If you are going to do next packaging system for whatever you want to do, I have one lesson that covers them all. Don't. No, seriously, it's one of the worst projects that you can get into because you actually think that how hard can it be? It's just a packaging system. It's a technical problem. We know how to tackle technical problems. Well, it's one of the horrible projects you can get into. Just don't do that. If you want why, watch the lessons. So one is don't do that. Don't do indexes, do query APIs. Well, let's talk about the second story. The second story called the imposters. You know the movie? Great movie, by the way. You know who this guy is? German poet. Thank you very much. You are much more useful than the guy that uses NetBeans. That's a correct answer. He is a German poet. He died in France, but he was actually German from Düsseldorf. Heinrich Heine is the name. This is a trusted timestamping.com, which is a trusted public key server. And one of the most entertaining things that you can do tonight, instead of doing something else, is going to this trusted server and search for Heinrich Heine on this trusted server for public keys. Those are the public keys of Heinrich Heine. That's a nice twist. It's Heinrich Heine at web.de. Here is Wolfgang Mozart, with the name of Heinrich Heine, by the way. I'm not sure why. Probably stolen identity. And the question is what? Why would a public server of public keys will have dozens of entries for email of Heinrich Heine at Düsseldorf.de? How that even possible, and what does that possibly mean? What, it's like there are a lot of them and they write code? Well, the answer is here. This is a GPG utility, the most commonly used utility in the world for generating key pairs. And as a very useful utility, it has default that allow you to do next, next, next. The defaults for the GPG utility is Heinrich Heine as a name and Heinrich Heine at Düsseldorf.de as an email. Because the GPG utility was created in the University of Heinrich Heine in Düsseldorf. And they thought it would be a nice joke to use an identity of a dead German poet as a default because no one will ever use it. Right, that's ridiculous. So now, what it means that you have all those keys? That there are a lot of software packages signed by Heinrich Heine as a trusted author of those packages, which is nice. Now, this is Maven Central. Maven Central UI it's minimalistic. It doesn't have a lot of information into it. You don't have the author, you don't have the, like any metadata. Is it a good package? Is it a bad package? What do you think about it? No, but author. Author is a big deal. It's not here. Why it's not here? Well, because Maven Central has a strong and so a very, very powerful way to assume who the author is, and that's by a public key. You can take this signature and ask the GPG utility who the author is. It probably will be Heinrich Heine in most of the cases. Which is kind of, okay. The same, but not exactly. This guy you know, right? And you know the story. He was a great painter, but cut his ear off and died unappreciated, because no one actually gave him credit for his great works of art. How it works together? Well, you authenticate by public identity, and you put the name and the face with the creation of the guy. Not only it's easier to authenticate and know whether who the author is, but it's also something nice for the author itself. Right? They see that they have created it, you can vote for it and everything. So I mentioned I won't do any product pitch. Yeah, so that's of course, two birds with one stone, and that's good. That's good. That's good job. It's Nougat Gallery. But we will mention Nougat in not such a nice occasion, but this is actually a compliment. You can clearly see who the owner is, who the author is, the maintenance and everything. So that's a good thing. And generally there is a lot of metadata about the package, which is a good thing. So I mentioned I won't do any product pitch, but let me take a couple of minutes. This is a plug, and this is shameless plug. So it will be like a little bit of shameless plug. This is Bintray. This is the distribution platform, and we try to learn from all of them. So here you go. This is the guy. He wrote him. You can thank him here by voting. There is a couple of metadata, which is clearly shown, and that's how it should work. And now to the next story. So story number 3 will be about versions. This is an example of a Windows user that needs to install a package. And we go like, okay, there is imeme, which is a very important meme generator. This is what I use for my daily job. And I go and install it here on C program files, whatever. There is no version mentioned here. And that's true for most of the applications, not only for Windows, right? For Mac, it's the same. We have this app folder, and there are apps there. Most of them are not versioned, which is fine until we want, for example, depend on it. That's not very common use case for applications, but it's definitely for system level modules that I mentioned. Now, this is a horrible example of Debian dependencies. This is an apt-get tool dependency and an aptitude tool dependency, which is just another Debian utility that people use. And look, it is apt some version. We have no idea which. Most of them are okay. They have versions like here and here, but this one doesn't have a version. So how that can work? Okay, Baruch, you ready? That's another twist. Another twist is if you don't list a version as with an imeme, you cannot have multiple versions of the same tool. So for example, that's classic. I need 2 versions of Ruby. How do I do that? Or in this twist, I already managed to install somehow 2 versions of Ruby. How the hell can I fix that? How can I have only 1 version of Ruby? Right? Or whatever. There is this type of software that believe that they are only alone on your operation system and you will only need 1 version of them. And Ruby is a classical example. And the answer will be, for Ruby, for example, a dirty hack named Ruby Version Manager. Now, Ruby Version Manager, just for you to understand the level of dirtiness of Ruby Version Manager. It allows you to install multiple versions of Ruby, and then it uses a bunch of symlinks and other tricks to make your operation system believe that there is only 1 system installed. Right? And then if you want to use the other version, it will change all the symlinks to point to another version, so the system will still believe that there is 1 version installed, but it will behave differently. Whoever had to work with number of Ruby versions on the same machine, saying for 2 different projects, knows that this is the definition of health. And people make the same mistake over and over again. So if you have the system, you cannot install multiple versions of, I don't know, of Microsoft Office. You cannot install multiple versions of Photoshop or whatever, right? And it's the same in the development team. So for RPMs, you have this problem. Ruby, well, it's groovy, it got better, but it was there. And then there are tons of workarounds around it that make the system feel that there is only one system. And it's actually a symptom of another problem that is related, like ClassPath hell or DLL hell. If you want to have two versions of log4j in your class path, there is no way you can do that. And then you have different kinds of transitive dependency conflicts and what's not. And well, there is solutions around it, like renaming the classes inside the jar and pegging them together. And for the world where static compilation still exists, it will be the solution, right? Compile them statically together and this kind of stuff. Horrible, horrible things, right? Talking about transitive dependencies, let's have fun with transitive dependencies. Back to Maven. We love Maven. So there is a project. It's project A, version 1, that depends on a dependency named E, version 1, which depends in turn to a dependency named D of version 1. A also depends on B, version 1, which depends on C, version 1, which depends on D, version 2. Right, you see where I'm going with that. So I have a quiz for you, for a t-shirt at the booth. Which version of D will end up in the class path? And here are the options. D version 1, D version 2, both, solid option, or none. It won't be any D in the class path. Who thinks it will be A, D version 1? One hand, two hands, alright, not bad at all. Who thinks it will be D version 2? Ah, that makes sense. It's newer, it should be there. How about both? Yeah, it's Maven, everything is possible. How about none? Oh yeah, why not, right? It's Maven, everything is possible. Well, so, yeah, so t-shirt at the booth. You know why? Oh yeah, well, let's wait for an answer. So I would say D2, because I believe that systems should make sense, right? D2 is newer, and assuming it is backwards compatible with version 1, D version 2 is the sensible default. I take that both the new works and the old works and they're all happy. But the correct answer is 1. Who knows why? Thank you very much. Yes, that's a t-shirt, but I have big sizes, so that's why I selected you. Well, yes, so this is Maven. So this, the mandatory facepalm. And, yeah. Wait a second for that. So what's going on is Maven doesn't have any dependency. That's a good background. Maven doesn't have any transitive dependency conflict resolution whatsoever. You cannot instruct Maven do something when you have a conflict. There is one behavior which at first seems very confusing. Maven will select whatever is higher, closer to the root of the dependency tree. In our case, it will be D1 because it's 2 hops from the root and not D2, which is 3 hops of the root. Now, everyone knows why it was done. That's a tough question. It was done because there is no conflict resolution. So they said, okay, we will make it easy for you to resolve the conflict. Just list whatever versions you want in the root, and they will always be closest to the root. They will be in the root. But if you don't know that, there is no way in the world you will know why the hell you ended up with class not found exception, with method not found exception, etc., etc., right? So, yeah, this is cool. And here is another Boromir. One does not simply uninstall module. So, the good thing about Maven is the simplicity of the Maven cache. If you ever worked with Maven, you know exactly where it is located, m2/repository, and you know exactly how to delete it, because something went wrong, right? That's easy. You can go into it, and you will see a nice file system. You can go to a folder and nuke a particular jar that misbehaved, or whatever. And I'll tell you why it misbehaved. It's not a concurrent cache. So if you have two Maven run in the same time and trying to use the cache, it will actually, bad things will happen, and then you will delete it and download the internet over Maven. Anyhow, so there are better caches, like Gradle one. Gradle cache is in your userhome.gradle, not surprisingly, but it looks completely different. There are some very strange folders out there, like artifacts 14 or artifacts 8, and you will see the same entries like NTLR 277 in different parts of the path. And here, this looks like an empty directory, and here is some file under checksum. That's strange. And that's strange. Oh, here, artifacts 8. Sure, why not? Okay. That's a very smart stuff. And it's smart stuff because it is versioned. Different versions of Gradle might decide that they need different structures of cache. And it will be supported. It's checksum based, so it will be very efficient. And it's also concurrent. So if you run two Gradles in the same time that need to use the cache, it will actually be fine. The problem is when you need to delete NTLR 2.77, you will probably delete the whole cache, just because you have no idea what it means. Should you delete this empty repository, or should you find all the checksums that match? It's not really clear. And that's a shame, because then Gradle will download the internet. It's nicer to the eyes than Maven, but still, it's a pain. I wish Gradle had an API for manipulating the cache. So I can say something like, Gradle, delete from cache, NTLR 277, and then I would rerun the build. There is none, and I wish it could be there. So, summarizing this long story, starting with multiple versions of whatever and going all the way to unusable caches, provide isolation for different versions, and oh, that's good. You can hear what I'm saying. Yeah? Do you need the video stream? We can figure it out. And so the cache manager would be nice as well. Story number 4. Version ranges. That's another scary one. Well, version ranges might sound like a very good idea. Something like version 3 and newer will be close enough. The problem is we are assuming that everything is backwards compatible. When I say I want to use every Spring version 4 and up, I'm assuming that in every release of Spring Framework, nothing will have breakable changes. Which, in case of Spring, is not a bad assumption. Those guys usually write good code, but not all the software world is Spring. It's not backwards compatible. And then, stuff suddenly stopped working. I come to my desk one morning, I run the same build that was fine yesterday, and it won't work today because someone somewhere in the world released a library which was a transitive dependency of the transitive dependency of the transitive dependency of the library that I use, and all of them use version range and just got the new version. And but good luck debugging. You don't have any other tasks for today, right? Oh, okay. Okay, now that's not how I feel about the library. You know what this is? That's a Docker file. Docker is amazing, and I'm not exaggerating. It's a brilliant piece of technology. All the containerization things and the amazing stuff they do with Linux kernel is just great. But this is by far the most fragile dependency management ever. Now, when I created this talk and I wanted to add this piece about Docker, I said, okay, I need to write a Docker file that will be really, really horrible. And then I just looked at Node.js official Docker file. And this is how it looks. And I'm like, okay, I don't need to write anything. It's all there. Every line, seriously, except of line number 5. Like, make dir is safe. Every line here depends on the latest version of a dependency. Seriously, every line. I don't know where to start. It's like the chances that I will run it tomorrow and it will do the same that it does today are absolutely zero. Something will break. And if it's not tomorrow, it's the day after. Right? So this is like by far. And the thing is, you cannot really fix it because, so apt-get received the version. So I can go like apt-get, I want Python software properties of a certain version and Python of a certain version, which is good. And then it's the same for Node.js. And here probably I can deal with it somehow as well. But here, I can go and say, okay, I don't want to rely on latest Ubuntu. I know, I was in the Baruch presentation, I know exactly how bad it is. I will rely on a very concrete version, 14.4. Good job. 14.04 was released 2 years ago, and the guys at Ubuntu Foundation, they do something very smart. They say, okay, we know that people won't update Ubuntu like frequently enough, but there are big security breaches going on over the internet. Right, during those 2 years, think about what it was Heartbleed, and it was what else? Shellshock, and there was like a couple of big ones. And there are still millions of Debian and Ubuntu running, Ubuntu servers running the old 14.04. So instead of making people upgrade, which is terrifying, we will push security updates to the same version. Now I have to say, Ubuntu 14.04 that you download today have very little in common with Ubuntu 14.04 that you downloaded in April 14, 2014. Which is again a good thing, security and everything, but you cannot rely on this version. This version means something different every month. So it won't really help. Now the thing with Docker build file is also that you can run here whatever you like. You run commands out of the blue. You can decide you want to run Maven here, or you want to run CocoaPods here, or you want to run whatever other dependency management. More so, you can run here something very, innocent, like installing some, apt-get module, but the instructions of installing apt-get module is running a dependency manager that relies on version ranges or latest version. You have no clue and you will never know. Seriously, there is no way for you to know. Or maybe you install version, you install a package that installs something on a first startup it will check for updates and will download the latest version of itself. It can be anything. So this is actually that bad, and I'm not sure if there is any work around it, except of knowing exactly what's going on here. Yeah, so Docker with the whale, their fins are too short to do a facepalm, so we will use a seal instead. But you got the idea. So require explicit dependency versions. It's a good thrive. You cannot always get it, but you should at least try. Story number 5. Well, that's a story of two things that won't mix, like vodka and beer. You can see by my accent, this is something very dear to my heart. Configuration and metadata. Configuration and metadata, they won't mix. Well, actually, vodka and beer mix very well. Depends on the results that you want, but this will always end bad. Let's talk about dependency management cross-site scripting. That's another name, like, to this story. Well, what we have here are sources of the Spring Framework. You can guess I love Spring Framework. That's the sources of Spring Framework. They build with Gradle. So part of their sources is their Gradle file, build Gradle. And that's because this is a configuration part. This is how it is built. Those are instructions of building the software. Metadata about what have been built is a part of artifacts. It relies with binaries and not with sources. So the POM that was generated out of the Gradle script is not committed to the version control, but deployed with artifacts. Okay? There is a configuration of how to build Spring. It's part of sources. And there is a metadata of what requirements do we need, what dependencies do we need with Spring. It comes with artifacts. Because if you mix them, if, for example, you ship your software with configuration instead of metadata, this is what's going to happen. So this is a very happy user that had a very nice project. This is my project A1, which is green and shiny. And in my project, we use some Maven tricks. I wish it was that easy, but there are ways to instruct Maven to only use some repository. It doesn't have to be Maven, it works the same. And I wish it was like always used, but there are a bunch of, games that will eventually do that. And this is great. And now we need a dependency, B1. B1 is a dependency of A1, and it is resolved from the repo that the user configured, which is great. So now we got the B2 from this repository. Well, the problem is that B2 was shipped with configuration instead of metadata. So not only B2 listed which dependencies they need, they also listed which repositories should be used to find those dependencies. Now, the list of the repositories to use when building software is configuration, not metadata. It should not be shipped, but it was. So now, in the descriptor of B2, there is the list of repositories which are not the repositories that the user wanted to use. So now, inside the list of the repositories, which should only contain this one, we also have some bad repositories. And now, when we need, now we have a list of 2 repositories, and not only the good one, And now the good repository was shortcutted, and the dependencies will come from the bad repository instead of the good ones. Right? You see the problem? And user is not happy anymore for a reason. Yeah, so by now I'm going on and on Maven. I'm going on and on Maven because for a good reason. But it's not the only system that works this way. Here's another example. npm package. Same user or another user, still happy, want to install npm package. And there are good guys that do like, by the way, cache clean. Cache API, good job. The one that we mentioned. npm cache clean, now we have clean cache, and now we configure a safe repository. That's the good one, that's the green repository, and in npm it's very easy to instruct. Only go here, like it's npm config, set registry, boom, we're done. It's perfect. And then we go like install intern version 1.3, intern in some npm package, I have no idea. And then we run it, and like, what? Where did this guy came from? I just instructed npm to go only to my repository. How that's even possible? Okay, so now let's look at it. That's the config of intern. And this great npm package manager that I just praised, for example, for having a cache API and for having a very good way to instruct repositories, allows providing in the dependencies closure any arbitrary URL, like whatever you like. If that's not cross-site scripting, I don't know what is. No, this is just horrifying. Seriously, it doesn't make any sense. Going back to why you never should write a package manager. Because that might seem like a good idea to the authors. Anyhow, the user is not happy anymore. Okay, you got that idea. So don't mix configuration and metadata. Regarding what kind of beer, I will probably be the wrong person to ask. Yeah, okay. That was another one. Story number 6. By the way, talking about what kind of beer, we have a party after this talk, right? So I'm standing with you, vodka, beer, and the mix of it. I'll make it short. Story number 6. Well, story number 6 is another nice story. And it will be about the limitation that doesn't have to exist. And of course, the classical example for that will be 640K of memory that Windows allowed, and it should be enough for everybody. Not sure that's true anymore. And let's talk about Docker again. Here we go. Now, this is a Docker tag. This is a command that instructs a Docker image where it should come from or where it should go to. I generally am not a big fan of the idea that the image name should contain the URL of where it came from or where it goes to. We can argue back and forth, but it's for sure shouldn't be limited to a host name only. This is by far beyond ridiculous, because that means that I cannot have more than one repository per host, because I can only put a host name, but not context name, but not repository name. Seriously, thank you for letting me put a port there. Like, because why not? You should use a port 80 always. Well, so the port I can, but nothing else. Which is kind of strange, and actually not really forced by anything. It's just like they go, okay, we need to put a slash here, and then the username should come. So if we will allow here a context name and a repository name, how can we know that after the first slash it is a context name and not a username? And just don't do it there. Okay? Just don't use the tag name for URLs. It's not intended to be a URL. And if you try to force it to be a URL, you will probably be in trouble. So that's exactly what happened, and that's a very strange limitation. And we worked so hard to work around it with Artifactory, with Bintray, and actually with every solution, including Docker registry itself. If you want to take the official Docker registry, the most official one, has nothing to do with JFrog Me or any competitors on this regard, and install 2 of them on your host under different paths, you cannot do that. Either you have different hosts, or you have different virtual hosts, or you have different ports, or you should work very hard to work around this limitation. Right? Yeah, so the lesson is simple. And again, I'm really huge fan of Docker for what they do in their core competency. I usually, the stuff that I don't understand, which is very smart, makes me like respect it even if it's total bullshit, because I didn't understand but it looks smart. So for Docker, I know that it's not total bullshit, that it is awesome when they do what they do best. Okay, story number 7. We're almost there, almost party. You know Memento, right? You remember the great movie, Christopher Nolan, when he was young. It was about like remembering things. We're going to talk about the wrong way to remember things. Well, this is not my best slide, right? That's the package listing of Bower. Bower is a package manager for JavaScript. It was very popular for the whole 2 weeks. That's the popularity span of JavaScript frameworks. Bower got their 2 weeks of being very popular. And so that's the listing of the registry. It has like tons of packages there. And this is how each and every of them look like. Oh, that's a good name. Okay, so what they have there is a link to GitHub hard-coded in the registry, which basically means 2 things. First, GitHub was selected as the source for all the possible packages in the world for Bower. Second, no client can override it because this is a hard URL. Both decisions basically bad. Why GitHub is bad? GitHub is great. GitHub is great for sources. It is a source management system. Git is a source management system. Not so much for binaries, right? Oh, okay, here's another example. I'm not even biased against Bower. CocoaPods, my beloved CocoaPods. They actually do the same. More so, not only all the packages are on GitHub, their registry is in GitHub. So that's just another CocoaPods project, which is called specs, and that's the registry. It is full of packages that again refer to some project on GitHub. Hard-coded. It's exactly the same for Bower and for CocoaPods in this regard. And Git is great for sources, wrong place for binaries because of so many reasons. So for example, with CocoaPods, well, you know how Git, now you need a package. You need a package for CocoaPods. How do you do that? What you should do? Right, you should clone all that. If I remember correctly, as of today, it has 150,000 packages that you have to clone because this is how Git works, if you need only one of them. And generally putting binaries in Git won't do any good. Large files, binary files, clogging up Git repositories, slowing everything down, and making clone sizes intolerable. That's the one I mentioned. What's the problem is going directly to GitHub? Because you cannot use an in-house repository. Because Bower and CocoaPods, they will go to GitHub anyhow. We had this with Maven, and we had that this is severe. You remember how it was with Maven? You had this central repository, which was, we thought, the good term will be hard-coded. Because it goes by this name central, and it's always there, and you could overwrite it by going to settings XML and introducing another repository under the same name, and we thought that this is bad. Well, this is hard-coded. It's go to GitHub no matter what. Right, absolutely no matter what. You don't have a magic name to override to make it behave. No, it will go to GitHub, period. The only thing you can do is, I don't know, hosts file, and then you cannot work because you actually needed GitHub for your sources, but you need to choose. Well, it's that horrible. You cannot use an in-house repository. So what we did with Bower was extreme. We just rewrote part of Bower. We just introduced a pluggable resolvers that will allow Bower to go to other places except of GitHub. And then we committed it was accepted, and now this ships as a part of Bower. No, we don't want to do that again, no. With CocoaPods, we found a loophole that we can actually tweak it, and it does work through your in-house repository, but it's like 3 pages long of instructions of what you should do to CocoaPods to make it go to other places except of GitHub. With Bower, we had to change Bower. That was the only way. So yeah, do not hardcore a central registry, and especially not the one which is a source control. That's like too long, definitely won't make it right. Well, story number 8. That will be the last one. You know this which? This is why it's called like that. So Grails. Grails is great. And it's pluggable. And let's say we need Elasticsearch plugin for Grails. And my question will be, which version of plugin for which version of Elasticsearch works with which version of Grails? And there is a definite answer to that. But the question is, how can you express it? How can you even start expressing it? Will you have a plugin which has the version of the plugin, the version of the framework, and the version of the third-party library that it integrates with, all inside the version, and then you will have number of versions for all the possible matches of this matrix. It is a matrix. So what we actually would love to see, and it does not exist, is a version compatibility matrix. There is no such thing in Java community, or for this regard any of the development communities. It exists. And it exists in this 50 years old RPM package manager thing that still thinks that the servers cannot serve searches, but they do have this from day one. So here we have spec file that can say, that's the version I provide, that's the version I require, etc., etc., and then we can say, okay, this is the compatibility matrix. OSGI tried to do that. I will wait for Jigsaw. Probably retire before it will be released, but still worth waiting. So yeah, version dependency is not enough. Dependency matrix is something good. Back to the shameless plug. It is supported on bin tray, but that's okay. I don't have any slide for that, so it doesn't count. All right, so we're all done. And just before checking if there are any drinks there, it will be more modules. And it will be more modules because of the cloud. The reason how it has something to do with cloud is because it's so easy now to develop your own pluggable system. And you're very tempted to write a plugin manager right now. Don't do that. Don't. You'll get to the next version of this talk. Don't do that. Yes, so that's extremely complicated domain, and we see more and more pluggable systems. Eventually, probably we will have to write a perfect pluggable manager, like dependency version manager, and I don't think we will do that, because after this talk you expect me to know how to do it. I have no idea. No one does. So don't do that. I think that will be all. Thank you very much. And let's go and check if there are some drinks there. Oh, Groovy, guys, I'm here for a reason in the Groovy t-shirt. It was actually all the way a teaser for my talk tomorrow. It will be Groovy Puzzlers, more funny than that, with another guys on stage, and we will throw t-shirts on people for correct answers. So come tomorrow, I think it's 2:30, you will find it. Thank you.